All right, here we go. Hello there, Talkin fight fans around the world. Thanks for joining me and the champ Bola Ray for another edition of The Scoop. And tonight, I believe he's got a great episode lined up because he's going to be talking about Roberto Duran, if I'm not mistaken. Take her away, champ.
Yesterday was a tribute to the life and death of a historical heavyweight champion who died on February 5th of this year. Yesterday, another boxing personality in my world died in one Ron Gallen of Niagara Falls, Ontario. Ron ran the Niagara Falls Boxing Club and was instrumental in me opening my first club in Oakville, the School of Hard Knocks. Many nights he sat on the phone mentoring me as to the ins and outs of running a club and putting on amateur boxing shows. Thanks for the year, my friend. Now, if that wasn't bad enough, again, for me, anyone who knows me knows my second favorite band of all times is the Supremes. Today, Mary Wilson passed away. I really don't know what to say. So, in true boxing form, I'd like to take this time to have everyone bow their heads and give a ceremonial final 10 count for 3 fallen champions. Thank you for your contribution. You'll be dearly missed. And on that note, this week I'm going to be doing a segment on the Fab Four. In essence, I am grateful to have grown up in an era where I could have actually seen these guys. Mind you, I did not have an appreciation for the sport yet, but they were household names. I remember almost all these fights. Again, I couldn't critique them anywhere remotely close to my ability today, but even then, just as a spectacle, it was nothing shy of sensational. With that being said, with his hands of stone, he raised from poverty. He raised himself from poverty. And by 1972, he was terrorizing the lightweight boxing world. He was arguably the greatest lightweight of all time. And I also believe his inside game was second to none. He made grit, toughness, and determination a thing of beauty. My name is Bola Raymond Olubuwale, and this is The Scoop. Born June 16th, 1951, in Guerrero, Panama, to a Panamanian mother and a American-born Mexican descent father, was arguably the greatest lightweight of all time in one Roberto Duran. Coming from impoverished beginnings, young Duran started training and sparring with actual trained fighters. At a seasoned age of 8.
Wow.
These fighters that he was sparring with were men or like men by comparison, like in our late teens, and yet he had no fear and would get in there and bang. Having had a short amateur career, it was time to get paid, and so he did, and moved to the pros. Again, absolutely terrorizing the lightweight division. Duran stepped into his office with an astonishing record of 28 fights, 28 wins, 24 by knockout, only to square off against Ken Buchanan for his WBA lightweight title. Understanding that the route to this point in his career, he had amassed knockout victories over future world featherweight champion Ernesto Marcel, and former super featherweight champion Hiroshi Kobashi. Savagely, Duran looked at his next contest as a street fight, where anything that he can get away with goes. Headbutts, low blows, elbows, intermingled with punishing body and head assault was the tone of the day. A controversial 13th round stoppage was what cemented his into boxing history. And he won the WBA lightweight crown. Duran even admitted that he was hitting him low early in the fight, but stopped many rounds before the fight was actually called off, and claimed that Buchanan was just looking for a way out in the 13th round because he didn't hit him low then. What a swell guy. Duran followed this up with several non-title fight wins, only to lose his first fight in a non-title contest to Ernesto de Jesus. He came back on the winning track with notable wins over future lightweight champion Guto Ishtimatus. 1972 saw a match with Esteban de Jesus, which resulted in a victory. 11th round knockout for Duran. 1976, he beat future lightweight champion Saul Omambi. He goes on to defend his title 12 times with 11 knockouts and amasses a record of 62-1, culminating by yet a third fight against now WBC champion Esteban de Jesus in a unification fight. Upon the knockout victory, Duran then was the undisputed lightweight champion, which he decided to relinquish in 1979. I don't think that there has ever been a more dominant fighter of any weight class than Duran at that point in time. Duran moves past junior welterweight division and goes straight to the welterweight division, where he knocks out Game Monroe Brooks and beats Jimmy Eyre. Zerafino Gonzalez and former WBC welterweight champion Carlos Palomino in a collision course for the man himself, Sugar Ray Leonard. Now, see, I remember this day very well. Why? Because it was my 10th birthday. June 20th, 1980. The legends met for the first time in 3 historical dances. in the squared circle. The contest will be discussed in great detail in future shows. But for the record, Duran beat and won the WBC welterweight title at the end of the day. Duran returned to Panama a national hero and celebrations were had for months. Leonard, on the other hand, was training right after the loss, and after a few months of exercising his rematch clause, he exercised his rematch clause. 1,000 pardons. Duran was grossly overweight when the call came in to their second dance, but he made weight and history was made. Duran left Panama a hero, but then returned as a scourge. After a long break, he decided to get back in the gym and went in a weight class to light middleweight. Duran rattled off a couple of wins, only to try his luck at yet a third world title dance against Kirkland Lange. Proved to be just as successful. 1,000 pardons. His title fight was against one Wilfred Benitez. Losing a 15-round decision, his next fight was against Kirkland Lange, which he was just as successful because he lost. Was this move up into light middleweight too much for the former lightweight king? He rattled off 2 wins against top 10 opponents in Jimmy Batten and a fourth-round KO of Pepino Cuevas. This earned him the fight for a middleweight title and against a phenom, Davey Moore, who had just had a record of 12-0 and won the WBA light middleweight title on his 9th fight. June 16th, 1983, Madison Square Gardens. Duran brutally punished the but inexperienced Davey Brown in 8-round KO. This was Duran's 32nd birthday, and he was hoisted in the air, and happy birthday was sung to him by a pro-Duran crowd to a sobbing 3-division world champion. Now, a normal champion would defend his title at that weight for a bit. Well, but Duran is nothing called normal. He doesn't just move up yet another weight class, doesn't just fight the world champion, but fights arguably the greatest middleweight of all time in marvelous Marvin Hagler. This historic fight will be showcased in great detail in a future show. But for the record, Marvin wins a 15-round decision. This is the second time anyone had taken Hagler 15 rounds, and the only time he was taken 15 rounds as a champion. Now, something else I think that needs to be said is that understand what an amazing feat that is. Marvin Hagler, arguably one of the most grittiest, tough as nails fighters that you will find, just went the distance with a man who, at his ultimate, was 30 pounds lighter. At the end of the 13th round, 2 of the 3 judges had Duran up by 1 point. And the other judge had it even. Duran was fighting one of the baddest men of all time. But what most people didn't realize is that he also had broken his hand by the 13th round. Marvin realized, or his corner realized, that he was down and told him to step on the gas for the next 2 rounds. Coupled with Duran's broken hand, it squeaked him a win against arguably one of the baddest men of all time. After this fight, Duran went against the wishes of the WBA and fought Tommy Hearns.
Wow.
And got his WBA light middleweight strap stripped. June 15, 1984, these 2 future Hall of Famers fought. First defeat by way of KO. Yeah. This was historic, but not for reasons Duran wanted to be remembered by. By suffering this KO, is arguably, well, I think it's the only time he was ever stopped. At least first time. This fight too will be discussed in a future show. Even though Duran continued fighting, he didn't contest for a title again until February 2nd, 1989, when he faced off against one Iran Barkley. This fight is worth noting because Barkley had just come off a knockout win over Tommy Hearns in the 3rd round, where Tommy had won a 2nd round prior against Mr. Duran. This fight was seen as Duran's crowning moment, where he is now 37 years old and in typical fashion fought an absolute war, dropping Barkley in the 11th and winning a unanimous decision and the fight of the year for 1989 by Ring Magazine. Later on the same year, Duran goes up to super middleweight to fight Leonard for the 3rd time. This fight too will be discussed at a later date. Duran went on to fight several more fights, but never another major title. July 14, 2001 marked the last time Duran entered the ring and left the ring as an athlete, while amassing a record of 103 wins with 16 losses. 70 of those wins came by way of knockout. A feat that has not been duplicated in modern times. On behalf of Talking Fight and just Boxing Nation as a whole, I want to wish Mr. Roberto Duran the very best in his retirement. You have more than earned it, sir. Thank you for your contributions to boxing history. And with that, if you liked this episode, please smash the like button and subscribe. It's your boy Bola, and that's the scoop.
Awesome show, and we'll see you tomorrow night for another episode of the Fab Four. Remember to hit subscribe and ring the bell for notifications.